we go again.
He's Kennedy, my brother from another mother.
What's good, bro?
Hey, man, I got a question for you early.
What's that?
Have you been keeping up with these boys that broke out of prison out in New Orleans, the Louisiana area, though, bro?
So I saw something the other day randomly of somebody sleeping on the bus stop, right? Then randomly I started seeing people with these quote unquote bingo cards knocking these people off. So I don't know what's going on, but just looking at what's going on, just based upon context clues, I can assume that 11 people escaped and they down to the last 3.
I think it was 10, if I'm not mistaken. I
See, I
could
thought
be
it was
wrong
8.
on the number. Yeah, but I think that one of the things that was interesting is that one of the that there was an officer from the sheriff's department who was arrested because apparently they were helping. They kind of, it's funny. My mom, who used to work in corrections, just as soon as she saw it, she said, "Oh yeah, they had to have some inside help, right off the cuff. There's no way that they pulled this off without it." And
Right.
apparently, this inside person was basically like, "Hey, you know what? They had the shank to me, basically told me to go ahead and do whatever. But they did have some help, and that person was arrested, all right. But I think that the part that I think that was that was funny to me was that when they at their escape, they had wrote all these other stuff, handwriting around this exit tunnel or exit out, and they had too easy LOL on it, and I fell out laughing when I saw it though. But I think they're betting now. Like I don't know if it's a formal on like the Vegas bets, but they're betting to see who is going to be the last one to get caught. But my question for you is this: if you've been locked up for I don't know how long, what is the first thing you're doing when you get out on the run?
Oh, it's gotta be getting some mushu, bro.
I think so too. That's what I would be thinking too, though, man. And I don't know how you do that. Do you just say, "Hey, everybody on their own"? I think that you got strength in separating. If you run in a pack, I think that that's where you go. That's where you just you out of the woods because now they can find one, find all, or find two, you find three. I'd imagine that you just say, "Hey, man, we gonna go ahead and get on out of here. Good luck, whatever, though, man."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people betting and stuff like that, playing games and stuff. That bro, I heard. So I don't know how legit this is. So I'm just quoting the rumor, I guess. But there was somebody on Instagram Reels where she was talking about the I guess the secretary of 45 47 was saying they was gonna do a game where they was gonna have some illegals play these games, and whoever wins would get the fast track to getting they legitimacy, and then like the runners up and stuff like that would get like gift cards to Starbucks and all this other stuff. So basically turning it into a game. Bruh, Netflix need to be trying to sue everybody for trying to get down on the doggone game scene, bro.
See, we've been trying not to talk about these people like that, and you invited me into a conversation that I can go off on.
So you know about it apparently.
No, I had never heard that
Okay.
until you
Well,
just
like
said it.
again, rumor. I should have sent it to you, but that's the rumor that I heard about. But
Nothing surprises me with these people, bro. Absolutely nothing, bro.
yeah, well, shoot, man, let's get this music so we can get cracking on everything.
Let's do it, man.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Brotherz podcast, the greatest podcast of all time. Brotherz podcast, the greatest podcast.
If you smell what the rock. It doesn't matter what your name is.
Listen, if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to the Slash Brothers YouTube and Facebook page and our TikTok page. We're live on both platforms at the same time. You click on the notification, you click on the bell, you get the heads up whenever your boys is doing their thing. Ace Kennedy, you look like you are ready for tonight's game.
Absolutely, bro. Been nervous all day.
What you
This is
expecting?
I honestly don't know. You know, we went 2-2 with them in the season, and granted, they weren't never at full strength. But I believe in the Thunder, bro. I think that both teams is peaking at the right time. I think the Denver series definitely helped us, and the Golden State series hurt them. So I feel like we're battle tested. I also believe in our coach. You know, everybody was looking at the whole move where we put Caruso on Joker, and look how that turned out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just one. You know, my philosophy has always been. I've said it to anybody that will listen. I've said it on the pod. If you got a couple of dudes that can get busy, right? You got to let one get all that they can stand. And I'm saying Anthony Edwards, let him get all he can stand. Let him get it all. If he want to score 80 points, let him get it. My thing is him and Shea gonna watch each other out, right? This series is gonna come down to the bench play or the Robins. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like with the depth that we have, and I know Minnesota's got a great coach, and they wouldn't be where they at if they didn't. But at the same token, I still here's my thing. Simple math for us, take care of home. Simple math. But a better math equation is to take care of home, win one of theirs. That's it.
I like that. I like that. I like that take. I look at it like this, though, man. I totally believe, man, that in this series, that in the end, it's like Joker always presents a different kind of challenge to OKC that I don't think that they have to worry about this time around, right? And I think that with all things considered, Julius Randle is a kind of matchup that I think that we can do. Now he'll get off on you, but I think I told you this before, maybe outside of the pod, that Julius Randle traditionally will cook like he is the Bobby Flay out there, and then he'll flame out, bro. And I think that the problem that I think that people don't talk about it as much because I don't know that the expectations for him were ever on a level of like a James Harden, because I think that he's been the next guy, the good to have. But he will give you some nice ones, but then he will flame out. And so he's been given, the Golden State Warriors some buckets, tough buckets. And I just think that with all things equal, OKC have the guys that can match up with him. So from that regards, though, bro, I agree with you. It's definitely strength in numbers. I think that the 10 deep that we roll, and I keep saying we because I do consider myself more of an OKC fan than any other team anyway. But I think the 10 deep makes a difference though, bro. The 11 deep, the 12 deep that you can throw bodies. And so I just think that, I always think that I know that you like to think that J Dub is going to have to be that. I think that, to be honest with
Yes.
you, I think Chet has to be the guy. I think what Chet does will matter.
But this is why it's J Dub, because Chet, you can't expect him to do something he hasn't done all season. Chet has been the third guy all season long. First of all, he was hurt a lot of the season. When he came back, he wasn't going to put up. He wasn't going to put up no 25 points. J Dub has to be the Robin we expect him to be now. Or if you want to make him Nightwing and then make Chet Robin, fine. But at the same time, I'm just saying, when Batman is not there, Nightwing has to take over. And J Dub, we lost last year in the playoffs because J Dub did not do well. We were losing the Denver season when J Dub wasn't playing well. When J Dub played well, we won. That's what has to happen. He
I
has
get what
to.
you're saying, but I told you you're gonna have a third guy that's gonna be pretty close to 20 points a game.
I
And
get
I
it.
think that Chet is as close to that you would need to average close to as close to 20 a game. Don't get me wrong. I do believe that even if Julius Randle is getting down, J Dub is an all-star. So he's the guy that I am going to look for that says, no, I can match that output. But I think that even when you go to Julius to matching that, the third guy is because you're going to say that Ant is going to basically cancel out Shea. I agree with you on that. And then if you're telling me that J Dub has to be it, then Julius Randle could also get down. So when we talk about the bench and the other guys, I also tend to believe that then that means that of those guys, your third best guy is Chet. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
expect
I'm
for
okay
Chet
with
to
you
get
saying the
down.
third best, but you said he has to be the number two. That's what you said.
No,
So
no,
that's
no, 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 no. He has. I told you he has to be where to me. I didn't say he has to be the number two. I'm saying that Chet has to be the X to me because
him.
I expect Jalen. I expect J Dub to at least cancel out Julius Randle. So who's gonna match Chet from their team?
It needs to listen. If Chet, even if Chet gives you 18, 15, even if he gives us 15, who's really important in this series, who wasn't a factor in last series, has to be Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe
Mm.
has to be on fire because here's the thing: quiet as it's kept. Well, it's not even quiet because if you watch just for 82 games, you know what it is. When Joe's threes are falling, everybody else's threes just start falling with it. You know what I'm saying? Dort ends up getting hot. Shea starts getting hot. We have to have either Wiggins or Joe has to light up, bro. They got to get busy in this series. Can't be
I
like
feel what you're
last
saying. I look at it like this. The one thing that I like about OKC's bigs is that they can all relatively shoot threes, except for Hark, right? So I think that when you have them out there, and then you have Rudy Gobert out there, I think that opens up the court so much for Shea to go ahead and get busy, right? And I think that the reason why I think that it's going to be so important for Chet is because I think that Chet could then be the person who's that extra body to try to get some more blocks, right? When Hart is out there trying to get the blocks as well, because Ed's going to be driving. And then I think that just that the threat of Chet, like his influence on the defense of him potentially blocking something or helping to make you think that I think it's going to be crucial because he's going to give the spacing that's going to allow for everything under the 3-point line to get open with it if Rudy Gobert is guarding him. Now, of course, if Hark isn't if Hark is the one that Rudy Gobert is guarding, I think you can do the same thing. I like Hark's little mid-range floater. I like him to be able to step out and then still pass it around him. So I think that whoever that is has to take Rudy Gobert away from the basket, and I think that Chet's more equipped to do it though.
Listen, man, we need to have the swarming defense that we've been known for all season long, bro. We need to
Hmm.
suffocate them terribly. Like I said, I'm not
Yeah.
worried about Ant getting his points. Let him get hot, whatever. Because he the thing is that and he struggled in the playoffs just like Shea has. So I'm just saying, man,
Sure,
I'm
sure.
I'm excited, nervous. It's that healthy anxiety for this series. Like I said, simple math for me, take care of home. That's really where I'm at.
If OKC plays at their best and the Timberwolves plays at their best, I like OKC's best better. That's just my
Same,
simple math
same.
though.
Who do you got in the Pacers and the New York series?
It's the biggest toss up out of all of them. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that I had to go back and I really had to go and look at the rosters, right? Because I think that the Knicks roster, I told you their roster is very top heavy. They got their first five guys, and then after that, it's just like you got a couple of And so I think that when I look back at the Pacers roster, bro, I think that the Pacers might just have the better their guys outside of their starters seem to be better to me. Like the guys who are like maybe like the 6 through 9. I don't know that the Knicks necessarily go that deep in the playoffs, and maybe they don't because their starters are that good. So it's to me it's a matter of do you want to go with if depth is an issue, or do you want to go with hey maybe the starting fives. With all that being said, though, bro, I think it's gonna go 7 games, and if it goes 7 games, I don't necessarily, I can't see betting against Jalen Brunson, bro. I just can't. In the game 7, I would put my money on Jalen Brunson, not the Knicks, but just Jalen Brunson though.
Yeah, I just think with the way their roster is constructed. I mean, again, I can't even be honest. I mean, I can be honest and say I really didn't watch many indie games, but I did watch a fair number of New York games, and for that, I would have to definitely agree that New York, I think, is going to pull it out. Plus, I just think
I
it'll be
just
cool for OKC to play New York so that my boys can go to Madison Square Garden and try to have that big grand stage.
I would love nothing more as somebody who hates the Knicks to see the Knicks get there just to get their hearts ripped out of them. And they always talk about orange and blue skies. I think that applies to OKC even more. So that's the reason why I personally would I would love nothing more than for the Knicks, just like the Cowboys. Like, when the Cowboys get all the way to the far enough in the playoff and then they stumble, like I don't want to see the Cowboys be trash. I like to see their fans keep thinking there's going to be the hope all for to come shattering down. I like to see that with the Knicks too. I do think it is funny though, man, that Triple H, they got asked him about that. Like, yo, Trips, what's up with the Jalen Hurts Tyrese Halliburton? He was like, my phone's been off the hook. I think that would be incredible, though, bro. I don't know how you do it because I don't know if there's like a game or off day between those two cities where it lines up. But dog, that would be incredible if they renewed that whole rivalry with Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton, bro. It would be
Well,
incredible, bro.
yeah, I mean, the fact that they had those two on wrestling before the finals was announced is
Yeah.
kind of like that whole Simpsons thing, bro.
Yeah. I do have one question for you, though, bro.
What's up?
I think that you and I talked about it before that this could be like the first, right? Like the first Knicks championship in, I don't know, 50 years or whatever. OKC's first championship since arriving in Oklahoma City.
Right.
The Timberwolves first time ever.
It's
And my
Indy's first
and the
time.
Pacers and Indy's first time that I'm aware of. I don't think they've ever won. They've
No,
had their
only
history as
only New
well.
York and Seattle has won one.
Yeah.
Indian Minnesota have not.
But it's been some time since he's so Indy has been up and down. Knicks have been up and down with expectations. So my question for you is this though: do you like this level of parity, where you are seeing some relatively newcomers on the big stage contending for a championship, or do you see it where like how some people might say, well, the NBA is better when the Celtics are there, that when the Lakers are there, and you got these traditional blue blood type of teams, though.
It's mixed emotions because my small market team is in the finals. It's surreal for me, and I say I love it because we're gonna see somebody new win the championship. But
Mhm.
it also is sad because it means our people are getting old because Steph couldn't make it, LeBron couldn't make it. Uh, 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 I mean, shoot, you can go down the line. James Harden didn't make it. Kevin Durant didn't make it. Uh, Kawhi Leonard didn't make it. There's a bunch of the old guys who didn't get it done, and some of them because of injury, right?
None of the active top 75 players are left.
Yeah. Um, even and even with Denver, right? My whole thing, I've said it from the beginning. If Denver were to happen to beat OKC, I would have rooted for them because of Russ. I wanted Russ to get him a ring, but unfortunately, we had to go through them. Which, like again, I think it's helpful for us, and it hurt Minnesota that they played a hobbled Golden State, right? Because I don't know that you really got like a lot of people looked at us and said the Memphis series didn't help us, right? But then we went through this adversity with Denver and had to fight through it to get to where we're at. So we're battle tested. Whereas I feel like Jimmy Butler and them didn't really give them that big of a test to me, or even I mean, even if they struggled with them, that makes it even worse. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm hoping, like I said, if OKC is planning to win a championship, this is the year. You don't have to go through a Boston team. You don't have to go through a Cleveland Cavaliers team, which is the only team from the Eastern Conference that beat us this year. Other than that, there's no Eastern Conference team that beat OKC this year. That's crazy. Crazy work, bro.
Let me ask you this though, bro. In the grand scheme of things, right? Do you think that we talk about like the level of competition,
Mhm.
right? And we all people always talk about the glory days of the NBA, especially when you talk about LeBron versus the Michael Jordan era, right? And so when you look at it, you had back in the Jordan era, you had the Jordan's Bulls three-peat two times, right? And then you had the Bad Boys go two time back to back. And then you had the Celtics that also did multiple. So you had all these multiple repeat champions. But by the time Jordan had really arrived, and as far as being the winner, Jordan, it was just him, right? And so my question for you is this though, man, is does this level of parity where you see a lot of possible one-time champions. So Joker, who won one, not a back-to-back. And although Joker won three MVPs, right? And you see that
Honest.
Giannis, multiple time player of the defensive player of the year, multiple time MVP, one championship. Joel Embiid, MVP, no championship, right? And so when you look at this level, does this parity that we're seeing speak to the level of competition of today's game versus maybe a more top heavy competition? Because everybody always talks about, oh, these players couldn't play in this particular era, or this player could play in this particular era, though, man. But based off of just winning championships, though, bro, does this what we're seeing speak to the difference in competitiveness, the how much more developed the players are? Like, what is that? Does that mean anything to you?
No, I just think it shows the level of how hard it is to win a championship. And I don't think the competition was any less back in the day, because you could damn near get into a fight in Michael Jordan's era. You know what I'm saying? They were beating him up. Like, they had Detroit was set to like try to hurt him. So and it was almost not even frowned upon. The refs weren't calling it, whatever the case may be. And we look at how competitive this particular playoffs was, with how much was not getting called and stuff like that. So I just think it's hard to win a championship. And I think that Jordan was an incredible player at the time, and they just knew what it took to win. It makes the three-peat even with how Golden State won four in the level of time that they did. It makes that just that much more incredible, because we're not seeing those type of dynasty programs right now, because it's that hard. And what it's also showing is that, shoot, in order for you to be successful, you got to spend some money. I
It's
mean,
healthy.
yeah.
Well, you got to spend money these days, right? And so I think that the big thing about it to me is that I think that this is where when we talk about like the rules being differently, right? I think that the rules these days make it more challenging for you to have a team together where your core guys are together longer than maybe about 5 years, right? Because I think that the Warriors are the last team that I know of that's had a pair of players with Draymond and Steph be together as long. And I think that it's just because even then, when the Warriors were starting to win, they still had Steph on like his first contract that was after his rookie year, after he had already started getting the ankle injuries and everything like that. So they were more of the anomaly. And I think what they came across was just something that was so very special circumstances. And the flip side of that is I think that the Celtics, because while they are organically put together, and they're probably the only other pair of duos that I've seen where a team has drafted them, and these guys have been together for more than 5 years together. Now you start to talk about, all right, they're introducing these aprons into the scenario and all these other things. And I think that it is becoming more challenging for you to spend money, but spend money where that run really, while you may have guys that were for 5 years, like the Celtics have been together longer than 5 years, but they didn't win the multiple championships within that ring. So it's like it's hard, like you said, it's hard to win a championship, period, when you think that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown been playing together for like 8 years almost, though. And even with that being said, you got one championship out of that while you have the biggest payroll in NBA. And now it's like that was the closest I thought that we would have seen to maybe a Golden State like dynasty run. And it's like before you know it, when it don't work, now you got to start shuffling. So I'm watching for Boston to see how much do they really change their roster and how much do they keep the same, because it's hard. And if you thought that your format worked just 2 years ago, are you really that far removed? Has the game changed that much to where that format no longer applies? So
Right. But I think this year has shown two things: how good or how important the regular season is. Because I'm telling you,
mm,
these home court advantages are key. And the other thing is how important the play-in is. Because you think, right? You remove the play-in, Golden State's not even in, and they don't beat Houston. You know what I'm saying? So, a lot of times you have like LeBron has classically kind of like coasted through the regular season and then try to make a big push toward the end to get a seeding that they want that's favorable and then go from there. But seriously, it is truly important. I don't know that OKC wins if we didn't have home court advantage against Denver.
mm.
I truly believe that. Now,
I
in
think
the
that this one is again.
Eastern Conference was different because Indy went to whoever they played. They went in their home and was the Cavaliers they played
Yeah, dusted the Cavs off, walked
in
them.
but in Cleveland though they beat them both
In
times.
Cleveland.
And then
They
the
didn't have
same,
Derek Garland,
true,
but they
but
still walked him.
right, but the same thing with New York, right? New York and Boston, they walked them in Boston,
Well, no, they didn't walk him in Boston. They walked him down though.
but then
They
they win
they
one.
they they
They win. Then they win the first game in Boston.
No, I think the last game was the only blowout. The
No,
first
no,
two
I'm not.
was in
What I'm
Boston.
saying is winning. I'm not talking about the
Yeah,
walking.
yeah, 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 yeah. But I'm talking about, yeah, but you're right. The first two, Boston was up by 20 in both games and came back and lost both of them.
Yeah.
But I think that, yeah, I think that definitely though, man. I totally, but being healthy is definitely even shows why it's even more critical, right? But I think that this is again, we talked about this before. I think that I'm definitely watching because this playoffs and how this season end has huge, huge implications, unlike any that I've seen in quite some time, of what next year will start to shape and look like, though, bro.
Okay. Speaking of next year, have you heard the latest rumor? The 76ers. Their plan is to trade the third round pick and Paul George to get Kevin Durant and Lauri Markkanen.
Okay, so let me tell you why that makes sense to me. Because the Utah Jazz is fairly young, and Laurie Marketing is out just outside of their current core, right? He's their vet, and he's been in the league for about 8 years now. But I think that for the most part, the core of their guys are all less than 4 years in the league. Here's my thing. You're gonna have to re-sign Kevin Garnett to a Paul George, and you got to max him out. Whatever the max is, you're gonna have to
Kevin
give
Durant.
that to KD. So then here's my thing. This is where I'm a bit lost on it. So I don't know what kind of guy Laurie Marketing is. I know that he's been good for Utah because it's just been him. I don't know if he's the number one option on any other team, but then it goes back to, well, Joel Embiid. You know what I'm saying? He's still Joel Embiid. Do you trust his medical history to be there and when it counts to most at the end of the season? And then you still have Kevin Durant because Kevin Durant's going to come there and possibly be like this. Tyrese Maxey is it his team? Is he the number two guy or is he the number one guy? Like, I think you still have the question of who's number one. And I think that's going to matter to me because if you have Tyrese Maxey, Laurie Marketing, Kevin Durant, and Joel Embiid, that's a tough course on paper. That's tough. But it's like, who else do you have on the team after that?
I mean, I get it, and those are questions they're gonna have to answer. But I at least appreciate the fact that they are looking to make some moves because Philly's tired of waiting.
I believe this though, bro. I'm let me tell you the reason why I think that that works for Utah, because I think that Utah already would have a bunch of picks, but with them actually also getting the number 3 pick, that means that they would be able to possibly get Dylan Harper or Ace Bailey if he slide, or the kid from Baylor. And there's one other kid who I've seen a lot of people say, "Hey, don't be surprised if these 4 guys, or let's just say Ace Bailey, because some people think Ace Bailey is like the next Tracy McGrady, but even outside of Ace Bailey and Cooper Flag, people are saying that Dylan Harper is the best true point guard that we've seen in quite some time. But the kid from Baylor is ridiculously athletic, and there's one other, I can't think of his name at the moment. But I think that if you are Utah and you think, well, dang, you know what? We just didn't make the playoffs with Lauri Markkanen, and he's good. But if you're still resetting, I guess I could understand why Utah would do it if you think that you place the value on the guy who's the number 3 pick, like some people say it. If you agree with them, then I don't see why Utah wouldn't do it though.
Yeah, but I think the third pick would go to the Suns though. And I don't know, again, I don't know how it would work, but I
Sure.
think the third, because the Suns don't have any picks
The
for a minute.
Suns don't have any picks.
So
Yeah.
that's why the third pick would look good for them for Kevin Durant.
Well, I think it's also because Philly has 2 top 10 picks, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. So that makes sense though. But I don't know, man. If you are if you it to me, it only makes sense to Utah if what pick are you talking about? You know, if you talk about top 5 pick, maybe though, bro. So I don't know, man. But Utah's roster is really young, and I think that for Lauri Markkanen to be the OG of the team that's actually putting up numbers for them and significant role, I think it's tough, bro.
Yeah. So what's
Like
beef,
John
bro?
Collins might be the oldest guy on there. Bro, let me ask you, we can stay on basketball.
Okay.
You saw that the WNBA kicked off their season, and of course, capitalizing on rivalry, they have the Indiana Fever versus the Chicago Sky, Angel Reese versus
Caitlin.
Caitlin Clark. All right, so and just like that, it becomes a big deal because Caitlin Clark gives a nice little hard foul on Angel Reese, and then it just kind of blows up after that. You know, chatty, whatever, whatever. My thing is this though, bro. Is this something, or is this well even bad publicity for the WNBA is good? What do you make of the? Is this just rivalry, or is this just publicity?
It's both. I mean, the thing is that people love a good scuffle. And then, of course, people are going to make it even racial. And then, the thing is there's no debate on who's better or who they play different positions, right? In my opinion, it was just a foul. It was just a hard
I
foul.
didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah. The reaction was like, eh, eh, you know, and then of course you like I said, when people make it racial, it's angry black girl. You know what I'm saying? Caitlin Clark does not even have a history of being a player like that, right? She's
Well,
competitive.
wait. That's part of the issue because part of the issue is that people look at her history and think differently, and they think, well, if Angel Reese did the same thing as she angry young black woman versus Caitlin Clark doing something, and they say, oh, that's just a competitive spirit.
Again, that's not what happened though. So I understand that this isn't a racial issue. This is two basketball players that came out at the same time that are going to get the comparisons because of the fact of who they are. They had a rivalry in they had a rivalry in school. So it's just a continual rivalry. That's all it is. This ain't racial. This ain't no if Angel Reese would have did it, it would have been angry black girl. No. Caitlin Clark has been competitive. She's playing consistent like she's been playing. She's competitive. To me, I thought I had the person in my head on thought process on the fire that she brings as far as like how would that translate to an NBA player. But No, she's I again, to me it didn't look like a I'm trying to hurt you foul. Was it a harder foul? Okay. And I even heard people say, well, it was get back because Angel Reese pushed somebody from her team or whatever like that. I,
I like this. I saw Jamel Hill respond to this.
mhm.
And she said one of the problems that they do is that it feels like the rivalry in itself is being somewhat forced, but one sided because Caitlin Clark only gets asked about Angel Reese when they're about to play or after a game that they've played. Whereas to Angel Reese is basically it's brought up to her more frequently, right? And it's almost like not allowing her to have her own greatness be defined by her own merit, right? It's being defined by this rivalry with her, someone who she doesn't play the same position with, though, bro. But I agree with you that ultimately, right? We wasn't talking about the WNBA 2 years ago, right? And if this doesn't happen, I don't necessarily know that we're talking about the WNBA yet. So I do think that it does add to it being a pop culture conversation now. So I think that to me, I didn't think that the foul in itself was bad. But because I don't think the foul in itself was bad and it still has pop culture talking about it, I do think that it's good for the WNBA. If you want to call it rivalry, if you want to call it a tough rivalry, I could totally see from Angel Reese's perspective and even Caitlin Clark's perspective as well that why y'all keep bringing her up with me. At the same time, it's like it's that scenario that some publicity is better than none, and I don't see why this wouldn't do anything but enhance the coverage for the WNBA, though, bro.
100%. That's all it is to me. It just feels like, you know, two spectacular women that's enhancing the game for the WNBA, bringing more eyes, more attention, which is kind of what we talked about even a little while ago when we got all these vets that have, built the WNBA to what it is, but you had somebody who has this type of cultural phenomenon associated with them that took it to a different level. I mean, it's the whole conversation why we were saying why Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark wasn't on Team USA at the time because they were so piping hot popularity wise.
Yeah.
These two are polarizing characters for the WNBA, and they have pushed it to a new trajectory. And yeah,
I think totally, bro. I think that the best thing the WNBA can do is really push this like a Bird and Magic rivalry. And even the Bird and Magic rivalry still had the racial undertones, but it only helped that Bird could just flat out hoop. And the fact that Caitlin Clark can flat out hoop and Bird and Magic played different positions, I don't think they ever really had to guard each other at all. But it was what the NBA needed at that particular time. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. If I'm the WNBA, I ride it organically as long as I can, though, bro.
absolutely, absolutely, nothing
Yeah,
more though. Because I mean, again,
yeah,
being upset. I mean, maybe she was upset because they was losing that bad, but you know,
yeah, yeah.
she.
Hey,
Hey, speaking of which, before we get off of it, shoot, they said that the Fever. I mean, the Fever. Their home game, all their home games are sold out, bro. Sold out.
let me tell you one thing that's crazy that I saw about the WNBA. And this is one of these things that I just well, no, I saw something similar to this, but listen, did you see that the Phoenix Mercury traded a girl to I think the Indiana Fever, if I'm not mistaken, right? And this girl, apparently, there was this rumor that was going around. I think she's part of a some kind of lawsuit that she was having an affair with the owner. The owner is the owner of the Phoenix Suns, right? And so what's crazy about that is that he is indeed very married, though, right? And so there's rumor, and she's out. She hasn't played yet because she had like some kind of ankle injury, knee injury, or whatever, whatever. But there's this big little scathing review that's being going on about the behind the scenes of the Phoenix Mercury, though, bro. And and when you put that into some context of the kind of things that have been going on, right? So they no longer have Brittany Griner there, right? She's playing with Atlanta. You remember Skylar Diggins had her issues when she was there with Diana Taurasi as well. Like this is crazy because it looks like Phoenix is a little messy behind the scenes though, bro. Like I like it, it's crazy to think though. I couldn't imagine something like that happening in the NBA though, bro.
Nah, you couldn't. But still publicity for the WNBA, bro.
It still does count because we talking about it.
Right. That's that T. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yo, bro.
was like, yo.
I don't know that I asked you though. Before we get on out of here, who you got in the OKC? I mean, I know who you want, but who you got? Oh, because Ant-Man is your boy.
Ant-Man's my boy, man. I got OKC. Okay, Ant-Man's my boy. OKC is my team.
Okay.
Yeah, OKC.
That's
I
kind of
got
how I was
OKC.
with Russ.
Yeah, and even on the Knicks, I mean, I'm gonna go. God, I guess I'm gonna pick the Knicks, but I'm not rooting for the Knicks. Though. I'm just picking them to win.
Bro, speaking of which, did you see what the Knicks fans did to? I guess he's a New Yorker because he was like, I think he is a fire chief or something like that. But they was throwing all that trash at him. The Indiana Pacers fan. Oh my gosh, bro, you gotta pull it up. There is a video of the New York Knicks fans, and you got people with phones and these trash bags, and they just throwing it at this dude, throwing it at this, and it's a mob of Knicks fans throwing
Of all
trash.
the stuff of all the stuff that we have going on in our group chat, how have I never seen this
Bro,
circulate in the group chat?
when you get off of here, just go on your favorite social media platform of choice, because I think they recently had him on Pat McAfee. They connected him with Halliburton, and Halliburton's gonna fly him out to come to like Game 4 or something like that. So they trying to work on that. But yeah, it was a bunch of Knicks fans just throwing all kind of trash on this dude. You got to pull it up though, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you this though, bro. I'm gonna tell you this. I think that the thing that I can appreciate though, bro, is the Knicks fandom. It's hilarious to watch, but I'm still waiting. It's just like the Cowboys. Like I said, I'm waiting for the crash, and I'm just waiting. It's gonna come, right? And I think as high as their high is, oh, the fall is that much beautiful though, man. It's fast, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. Well, look, man. What you got going on for the week?
Back in the lab this week. I was glad though, man. I'm writing 2 very hard songs, hard topics though, man. And I'm writing, but I'm glad that I'm piecing together these songs, oh man, and back working on production. And I think that I'm finally figuring out a couple songs, and I'm about to go ahead and put on out some singles. So I'm glad to be back in the studio, man. Heavy though. What's good with you?
I just finished a project I just finished a hook for somebody for their project. So now I'm tweaking stuff on my project, trying to get everything tightened up so I can get this album ready to be out. So, yep, kind of doing the same back in the lab. So it's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good stuff, man.
From ATL to OKC, we thank y'all for watching Slash Brothers podcast. Join us next week at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we will see y'all on the next one. We out.
Peace.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Slash Brothers Podcast, the greatest podcast of all time. The Slash Brothers Podcast, the greatest podcast.
Can you dig it,
of all time.
sucker?